Okie dokie artichoke. This is actually one of my favorite spots here at the Second City because this flag, oh, nope, that's the wrong button. Bear with me. This is one of my favorite features. It is the Second City flag, and I absolutely love every time I see it. There's also like a mural over there, but I've already recorded with a the mural with Steve Carell and Stephen Colbert and everything like that. But this table I'm sitting at usually gets busy, so I'm going to talk fast. I usually write down in my notes 4 actors' notes. And in case you don't know, my name is Giovanni Axibal. I've been taking improv classes here as an actor. I've been acting for 4 years, but still there's so much I have to learn, such as improv. I've been adding to the tool belt, and so I started in November of 2025, and then I took Improv 1, Improv for Actors 1. Now we're on Improv for Actors 2. This is week 6. So this is everything that I learned thus far. I would write it down in a notebook, but I think every instructor is going to be different. Every class that you take is going to be different. And so usually I'll like write down notes in any acting class, improv class I take. I'll like have time to write down. We'll do an activity, then we'll sit down, and then we'll reflect and talk about it. And that's when I have time to write down notes. But this acting class, my instructor, hold on, there we go. It's like we're always moving. We're always playing a game. There's always something physical going on, which I absolutely love, just because, I mean, it's 3 hours, right? So when you're doing so, I mean, it's cliche to say, but when you're doing something you love, time just flies. Or time flies when you're having fun. And we're definitely having fun. I disagreed quite a bit with my teacher in terms of accents and how to implicate them into your improv scenes. And it wasn't like an argument, but it was just and I'll preface by saying this, one of our first weeks, or the first couple of weeks, when I was in this improv class, he said, listen, you guys are in Improv for Actors 2. You've already established the main questions to ask and to avoid, saying yes and don't ask questions, have a relationship, how do you feel, have subtext, all of these things that an improviser has to think about, even and go further into that. So he said, you guys are already established. So right now, just take what you want, leave what you don't. So he'll say, hi, Aiden! What are you doing?
I'm going to go to a grad review show.
Dude, heck yeah, where?
Just right up there.
Did you just buy that? And you're like,
It's within 2 hours before it starts, so I got a rush ticket. So
do your thing. I don't know.
No, I'm saying it was in within 2 hours, so it was a rush ticket, so I got it for free. It starts at 7:30. Not at.
Okay, I got you. Do you want to say hi for the vlog? You don't have to be on camera.
Vlogging?
Basically, yeah. So.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Do you want to say hi? Do you want to come in? Come here, say hi.
Are you live, or are you going to upload it later?
No, let me say something. So this is Aiden. And I'm gonna say this too. I'm confident in my improv skills, but he's probably he's the best one. In terms of, because I was just talking about what Jack said. I'm just documenting the journey of like every improv class, just to make sure like if I rewatch it, I'm like, oh, that's what I learned that day. Yeah. But I was literally talking about the relationships. Ask your questions of who are you, where are you, what do you want, how do you feel about your character. Yeah. But you do that so he's so good, but
I struggle with for me, and I'm doing a dramatic improv class right now, or a dramatic improv show right now, which is the focus is more on relationships and characters than plot. And for me, it's easier to find like the plot of the story to chase. But our show is called Bottle Episode, where it's all about characters.
Shout out Bottle Episode.
Well, it's just about characters and their relationships, and so for me, it's been really hard to do that in that show. Because it's just about characters and how they feel about each other, and it's not about like creating like what the plot is like, something happening.
Is the plot like the Does it go more into like what's the problem here between us, or what do you mean plot? Is it like the story?
Like usually, I mean, like in our story, we were having a plot where like there's water that is being diverted, and it's like the characters are more the backdrop for the plot. But in this show, because a Bottle Episode in TV is like one of the characters are stuck in a room and it gets more introspective, it's supposed to be less plot focused and more about characters and how their interactions and how they feel about each other. Yes. And that's been a struggle for me, because I love doing the plot stuff. Because it's just because you said that you feel like I make good choices with my characters, but for me that's the hardest part.
You do that so well. So, but I know we're always our worst critic too. But I appreciate the honesty too. I don't want to take your time.
You're fine.
It was funny. I was literally I don't have a lot of viewers on the YouTube. I put this on my YouTube.
But I would love
You
to-
can tell. You can say no. Just cut this out. Cut this out. I want to be a part of it too.
I'm okay.
But yeah, so on YouTube, I'll just be like, okay, here's what I learned at improv class
What's your
2.
YouTube?
Yeah, I'll type it. It's just my name. But what was it? That's interesting. I literally said this last week. I said you'll see a lot of people with experience when they're on stage. They will be like, oh, I don't think that was as good as it was. But from my perspective, I'm like, Aiden's really good at doing
Acting's
that.
your background, right? I mean,
Yes,
you're
yes,
an
yes,
actor,
yes.
And it shows. You're a good actor.
I appreciate that.
Giovanni, nice. What,
so-
190. That's a lot of. That's a lot of followers.
This thing is weird. YouTube is a weird thing. I mean, like now we're in an interest, like, because I'm a content creator, so it's weird.
When you say that, like on YouTube, or are you talking about also like
Also,
Instagram and stuff?
yeah, all socials, but it's a weird thing. Like even a lot of followers, you'll see accounts with millions of subscribers, and then you'll see a post, including my own. I'll own up to it. It's like four views. I'm like, oh, but it's okay. It's all part of the journey of just recording. I would love to put that in, just your take, because this just proves. How I said last week, a lot of people, when they have you look from an outside perspective, like Aiden's so good, and then you say, I struggle with that.
Yeah.
You're like, what? I didn't realize you go through that too.
Sure.
And that's the whole point, just finding the relatability.
I didn't. Yeah, sorry. I'll let you record.
No, you're good.
That's awesome.
I'm happy to see you. This means that I'm not lying when I say this, you guys. Oh, that's awesome. It's good to see you. Did you plan to buy a ticket to the grad show?
Yeah, a friend of mine is in it. So
Oh,
I was
okay.
I meant to buy it earlier, but then they were like, just buy it right after your class because then it'll be free.
Yeah. And it's the 7th, or sorry, our 7th week. Right now, nothing's on. I'm keeping Saturday open, the 22nd, but it has to be the week of to know when that, if that day is booked or school.
If you can't, no worries. I mean, it'd be cool though for us all.
How long is it? Is it what the email said?
Our show, or what do you mean?
Yeah, our show. Yeah.
I
On
don't
the
know
22nd.
when it's gonna be.
However long we make it last.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I like what we did there. If anything, we should do that again.
What, the movie? Doing a movie or doing a which one?
Before, like, what would you say before our montage when we had a theme and we just kept one character?
The movie.
Yeah. Okay, that's what it. Well, I didn't know if there was a title. Movie. Yeah, the movie one.
You just called it making a movie. I didn't know if it had a game.
Yeah, I love that, dude.
Of course.
Hey, you're doing. I'll be honest. I'll say in front of the class, I'm like, I think Aiden's one of the best improvisers here so far.
Thank you.
Of course.
Well, good luck with your thing. And I would love to love to record with you sometime or chat with you if you ever want to.
Yeah. For the last, if you have time, because I did it with Michael and I did it with a few improvisers in my last Improv for Actors 1 class. I would love to sit down with you and be like, okay, we just did 7 weeks of Improv for Actors 2. What are some like 3 main takeaways you have for anyone who wants to start the journey?
I take notes in class.
I've seen that.
I treat it like a class.
Exactly, and it is, and it's fun. It's 3 hours. I said it just feels like 45 minutes.
It's a lot.
It's
but
quick.
It's nice.
But if you have the time, yeah, for like 30 minutes, it's just like this. We just sit down and be like, okay, 3 takeaways for a new improvisers. What would you say to reflect? Oh, I have so many questions, but I'll text you because we have a group chat.
We have our contact.
I appreciate you.
Awesome. Good to see you.
Good to see you, brother. I will say there's a lot of foot traffic here, so I hope you can hear me and him fairly well. But yeah, like I said last week for week 5, I mean, this goes to show you that we are our own worst critic. And something like, from my perspective to him, as an improviser watching another improviser in the same class, I've watched Aiden's performances and just his ability to establish who you're talking to, meaning give the person a name. Where are you? What's your environment? You don't have to be crazy like we're on the 11th floor of the Empire State Building and we're in the break room of our hedge fund company. You don't have to, I mean, like that. I mean, being specific is great, but you could just be like, we're at the park. I think there's a overcomplication that, not complication, but over specificity sometimes people think about when it comes to asking these questions. And I think less is more. I've realized that over the course of my improv experience, how it's great to be specific. But there's a point, I mean, I even remember Improv 1, the first ever 8-week course that I took. My instructor, Tom, I love Tom. I talk about him all the time in my past videos. He said, you know, if you're ever in a scene and you're passing a ketchup bottle, don't be like, hand me that ketchup bottle. Be like, hand me that Heinz ketchup bottle, please. Yeah, I think that's interesting. It's specific, but I think, you know, my personal creative choice, just say ketchup bottle. And a lot of people say, be specific, be specific. I'm not saying don't be specific. I'm just saying that people think too much about that and not about how do you feel about the person. I feel like you're not asking the right questions, or you're fixated on those questions, that there's other things that you should be worrying about. Like, how do you feel about your partner, your scene partner, the group? Are you actually listening? Are you actually reacting? These are the questions that I'll ask myself. Going back to what I said about having the disagreement with my teacher, it wasn't an argument, but I remember making the actor's choice, the improviser's choice, to do an accent. And so we took place in the scene, and it was a Italian restaurant. And I came in. My name was Mario. It was hilarious. I came in. I had the best, worst accent I could commit to the bit with, and then we escalated to the scene where my other scene partner said, "Are you even Mario? Are you even who you say you are?" And so I had the creative choice to think, actually, let me just put on a different accent right now. And so I went with the Russian accent, and I started talking like Vladimir, and I was talking like this old Romanian vampire. And my instructor stopped me. He said, "What are you doing?" So I just, they said, "Are you even?" I thought it was a good moment. And I'm still a little finicky on his explanation, but essentially he said there's a difference between an ethnic accent and just something that you grew up with, or an American accent. And I, as you can tell, I'm still struggling to understand how to implicate that in my specific scene. But as he was explaining it, of course, yeah, it's a collaboration. You're not always going to agree with what someone says with their creative choice. But I said, okay, yeah, that's an interesting perspective, and I'll think about it. And I personally think that my choice was totally fine. Those are the things that when the instructor stops you and says, "Why do you do that? Don't do that." He didn't say exactly "don't do that." He gave his explanation on why you shouldn't change your accents in the middle of a scene just like that. I thought it was interesting. I even said, because it's funny. And that's another thing too. Reading the truth. Oh, this one. Reading Truth and Comedy by Del Close, Shauna Halpern, and Kim Howard Johnson. He says, try not to be funny. The purpose of improv isn't try to be funny, it's just try to be true. And I think there is a truth in comedy, as he describes it, Del Close. And so I was like, because it was funny, so maybe I was wrong. Maybe we're both right and we're both wrong. And that's a thing that I don't think a lot of improvisers would do, is not disagree, but state your opinion and trust your intuition. I thought my accent choice and my deliverance was right for me in that scene, and he thought differently, which doesn't mean it was wrong entirely. It just means that I had my opinion, he had his own, and that's how we view improv. And I'll be honest and say, I'm just going to be upfront with you and say this. I've only been doing this 15 weeks, so I'm in no position to say that everything that you learn about accents, when to implicate them into your scenes, how to transition if you ever have that moment from another accent to another in a scene, is right. But I will say that over the course of either your improv classes, your acting classes, when you're put in a situation that's like up front, in front of everybody, you get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And your confidence does get a boost, and you start taking these risks and making bold choices. I've said in my previous videos how accents was actually the most difficult thing for me as an actor, to implicate them into my, I'm using that word a lot, implicate, it just sounds smart. But to put them into my scenes. And so I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go with Western, I'm gonna go with Russian, I'm gonna go with, I went Irish, but I think I turned British in the middle of the scene. And this is something that a lot of people wouldn't take the risk with. They wouldn't put themselves out there because it kind of looks silly. But then at the end of the day, when you think about improv classes, we're all doing the same thing and stretching our improv or acting talents in a way that's very uncomfortable, that looks silly to us, but just gives you that evidence that you can look back on to say, I took a risk here in an acting class. I could probably take another risk for something else. I usually write this down, like I said, after class. I'll write down the notes, but that was the biggest thing. Let me think about my minor things that might help you out in your scenes. He says alcohol. Why do we? What's one thing that alcohol does in a scene when you mime picking up a drink? What does it do? And I was like, I don't know. It makes the audience think the character has some kind of addiction. But he was like, it's like truth serum. Whenever you see someone take a sip of alcohol in a scene or something, something alike, it's always like a truth serum. They just blurt out however they're thinking. I was like, ooh, that's an interesting tactic to use whenever you're in the scene. And I noticed, especially from last week, making the drive up here, taking 5 hours to get up here. It's a 3-hour class, 3-hour improv class. A lot of this class specifically is physical. We're always moving around. I'm tired. And there'll be moments where I started to blank quite a bit. And when you blank, he talked about just from where you are, just listen. Listen for the next thing to latch on to. And that could be your, yes and moment. Take that, whatever you heard, add on top of it and just continue going on. But I found that there were little tactics that when you have a blanking moment, okay, like one tactic is finding the problem. What's the problem? How do I feel about this other scene, this other person? Do I like them? Do I not like them? That's like, what's the situation that we're talking about? What's the problem here and how can we solve it? Another tactic like this is whenever you have alcohol, it's like truth serum. So that could turn into something much more sillier, much more funnier, much more interesting. So I'm gonna add that to the tool belt. What else did he say? We played a lot of games. This class specifically, and I'm gonna say again that every single class, every single instructor will be different for each and every one of you, because even if it's the same, actors for Improv 1, actors for Improv 2, the instructor is, or I would say a good instructor is tailoring what they say to their class. Yeah, you can give broad advice, but tailoring to the class. And so my instructor right now is just helping us with our improv show and less about talking about, yeah, that makes sense. Less about talking about just more things to learn about improv. He's like, this is why we say yes and, this is why we don't ask questions. He says, listen, you already know that stuff. You already spent 9 weeks learning that stuff. Right now, we're getting into the nitty gritty. Ooh, I'm gonna get close. Usually I'll cut to another piece, but I really wanted to say this one. Thinking about improv for actors, this specific class, and improv in general, improvising, and all the auditions that I've taken that says, we need you to improvise this scene. I have a moment, and I feel like a lot of you do as well, where you're going to be alone and they ask you to improvise. When you're here, you don't have to be here in Chicago at the Second City, but when you're in an improv class, majority of the time, you have another person. You have a group that you're improvising with because you'll deliver a line. They'll deliver a line. You have to establish where you are, your relationship, what's your goal, what's the problem. Are you listening? Are you listening? Hello? Hi. Are you listening? And then the subtext. If you say something, what is the actual message underneath? These are the questions that you'll go over, or might go over, or maybe more in your next improv acting class. But I've had moments where I'll either book an audition or I'll get an audition, and that's two different things. You'll be on set working, or you're submitting. You're maybe at your house doing a self-tape and they ask you to improvise, or you're on set, they ask you to improvise. If you're alone, you don't have a scene partner, you don't have a team to improvise. No, what relationship am I establishing? Yeah, you might have a character, but here's what I took away. If you ever have to improv alone, by yourself, it's a little difficult for I said we, because I take you guys with me through this whole journey. Next week is our last week, by the way. And then we get to go to stage combat. But yeah, what I'm learning here, I'm always with someone. So how do you improvise solo? You can actually improvise solo. There are one-person shows quite often here at the Second City, and quite often probably where you live. And I just struggled with this. I was like, how do you improvise by yourself? But the key components of I want to say listening and reacting, that's just a given, even if you're an actor or just an improviser or whatever it is, theater. Listening and reacting truthfully, that's a given. You should always be doing that. But the questions that I asked myself, I was like, okay, if I'm improvising alone, I have to know who, establish the relationship. So who am I to the scene that I'm in? Who am I in the context of this environment? And then I just use where I am. I use the resources of where you are on set, or the description of a character that you are auditioning for, or the environment. How do you feel about where you are? Okay, this is just to help you be more specific. I feel like I'm going on a tangent. When I had to improvise a scene, I knew that I had established the relationship, so I started giving things names. Names in a scene, in a self-tape submission, and then names on set that to people who weren't even there. So I was like, "There's Mark, there's John." There's no people there. I was by myself. And where was I? I was actually using my physical location, or whatever the self-tape submission said, where you are. If you don't know where you are, give yourself an environment. And then how do you feel? Not only how do you feel in your scene, how do you feel towards your environment? How do you feel towards, yourself? But I'm not trying to get super retrospective here. I'm still learning this as well. And the whole point, if you don't know already, if you've listened to this journey thus far, the whole point of Actor's Notes is to simply share with you my notes, my thoughts, my questions that I have in class as we're taking these improv classes. And they don't make sense if I just read them out loud just like this. I have to rewrite them for you guys. But I feel, just like with me and Aiden, I feel like there's a connection. There's a connection of problems or questions or thoughts that I have that other people have. And maybe you have as well. So that's the whole point of Actor's Notes, to share with you my thoughts. And you're like, oh, I think about that too. Or, oh, you made that mistake? I'm not going to do that. I truly do hope you make mistakes. Look at this pen, by the way. It's a Second City. Hold on, can I zoom in? There, it's a Second City pen. I don't know if they were available, but I took it. And yeah, this isn't perfect, but this is just my raw, real thoughts for Actor's Notes. And that was a thought that I had. How do you improvise in one scene? If this is a class called Improv for Actors, but majority of the time you're going to be alone, how do you improvise by yourself when all you've ever known was improvising with other people? And I personally don't think that Actors for Improv is exactly for actors. I think it's just more in depth with improv, which there's nothing wrong with that. But that's just been my experience. Like I said, I have taken away, who are you? What's your relationship with your environment, with yourself, with what you're doing? Be specific in that situation. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I can own up to that. Maybe I'm wrong about that Heinz ketchup idea. You guys are seeing me learn in real time. Maybe, instead of saying the ketchup bottle, it'd be like the Heinz ketchup bottle. I definitely changed my perspective on that. I think the more specific you can be, the better. But I will still stay true that people will worry, and I haven't done so, but I feel like you'll probably worry so much about being specific and giving so many details that it takes you out from the other questions about how do you feel about your partner? How do you feel about your environment? Establishing where you are is great. Being specific with those details is great. But if you neglect those others and you don't nurture those other questions, then that scene doesn't reach its fullest potential. We just learned after class in real time. So that's funny. Yeah. And in case no one has told you yet today, I love you. You matter. You have value. And let me say something I haven't said before. I mentioned it before in this video, but I'm just going to repeat what I say. I've struggled with voicing my opinion quite a bit. You'll have those moments when you're in class and the teacher's like, does anyone have any questions before we begin this next scene or this next game that we're about to play? And there's always someone, even if, I mean, majority of the time it's me thinking, oh yeah, I do have a question, but I'm not going to ask it because it may sound silly. But then I do the scene and then I face that question. I'm like, oh, I should ask that question because now I'm in that situation. And then the scene could have been more than what it was. And it was due to a lack of confidence. It was due to not trusting your intuition to ask that question, not supporting you as an improviser. We always support our other improvisers, and that shows a good improviser's characteristic to support, to say yes and, but we need to do that ourselves. So next time you have an opinion or a question that some may disagree with or may sound silly to you, I guarantee you that someone else is probably thinking the exact same thing. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one. I love you.